Ralph won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. What song was that?
Sergeant Pepper's one and only Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Not like that at all.
Wait till you listen back. You'll get it.
I will fully admit that I am a huge Beatles fan. So, and this was the first time for me watching this.
Nice.
It is an extremely bizarre movie.
Very strange.
There's not really. I mean, there's a plot, I guess.
There's a lot of plot, baby. Look, man. There's a lot of plot. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from Heartland, USA. They ended World War I, Adam.
Yeah, and then they gave them a weather vane.
Well, that weather vane really proved handy.
It was like 40 years later.
It was a magical weather vane.
Yes, well, did they all realize that?
Yes.
Did they all know that?
Of course.
Oh, is it because, oh God, what's his name? The narrator, George Burns?
Mm-hmm.
Was
Mr.
it
Kite?
because he was actually God?
Maybe.
This was a prequel to Oh God, You Devil?
They say that the weather vane always points to happiness.
Right.
And when there's no happiness, Adam, he has to come to life and be a Deus Ex Machina.
I don't think they knew how to end this movie.
Oh, they did. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah. You watched this a lot when you were a kid?
No. I did watch it in the movie theater as a kid.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it. But it made me so sad. Spoiler alert. When one of the characters dies, that whole funeral scene just gutted me as a child.
Yeah.
And
it just kind of comes out of left field.
Yeah. It's and it just was like, what? But I loved it as a kid. It was such a weird, visually pleasing movie. It had Steve Martin in it, who was my absolute favorite in the world. I loved
super weird scene.
So weird. Also, I loved, just like everybody, I loved George Burns.
Yeah.
I mean, he was America's granddad.
Oh, yeah. He was amazing.
Loved the Bee Gees. It had everything that you could. I loved them. Look, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have a very musical set of parents. Like, it's really ironic because my dad was a radio guy.
Right.
Had tons of records, loved music,
right.
And then my mom got remarried, and my stepdad couldn't give an S about music. All I got to listen to with them was like Jim Croce. And I'm not complaining. Jim Croce was great.
Yeah.
He has one of the best songs in the world, Big Bad Jim.
Oh, about
me. And he wrote about me.
Big Bad Jim?
Yeah.
Who's Big Bad Leroy Brown?
Well, no, that's you don't spit into the wind. You don't.
Oh, that's that's right.
Superman's cape. You don't turn on old King Kong, and you don't mess around with Jim. Boom, bang, bang, gong, ding, gong.
You've lived your entire life based off that song.
Definitely, man. I do not spit in the wind. I have never messed around with Superman's cape, and King Kong, hands off, baby.
Well, yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of musical.
Yeah.
I had my sister who was very into music, and she was getting me into stuff. But honestly, I didn't know very much about the Beatles going into this.
Really?
So, I think like at some point after the movie came out, I heard a Beatles version of one of these songs. I was like, oh, look, it's a cover of one of the Bee Gees songs. But I knew because of the credits and everything that was written by the Beatles, whatever. But
I had the exact opposite experience. My parents only listened to the oldies station. So I grew up listening to all that late 50s, 60s, early 70s stuff for the first 18 years of my life.
Oh.
So I loved the Beatles. I liked the Bee Gees. I preferred the Bee Gees before Barry, the lead singer, decided to go falsetto.
Oh.
I liked him more when he was more in his natural range. But and that was also corresponding. It was like in 76 when he started doing all the disco stuff.
Sure.
But they were great. They were great. They had great songs, and
I like the Beatles. I've never been a fanatic about them. I personally don't really like their early stuff, like Roll Over Beethoven and all that.
I will say I started listening to the the full discography after we watched the movie, and man, those first couple albums, except for their hits, there are some terrible songs,
some stinkeroos. Look, White Album,
terrible songs,
classic. Sgt. Pepper's, classic. Magical Mystery Tour, classic. I like their more druggy, weird.
The later, like,
sitar.
post 67 stuff.
Yeah.
The weird
LSD.
really weird thing about the Beatles is that all of their albums, all of that stuff, every big hit they had, their transition, all that happened in 8 years.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, in a nutshell, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is a Beatles movie without the Beatles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they just tried to make a Beatles movie.
Yeah.
And starring the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton, who has got the biggest mouth in the world. Except for maybe Steven Tyler.
Yeah, it was a big mouth off on that. Yeah, but you will not find a more 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Look,
yeah.
all of these musicals are so damn 70s, man.
Yeah.
All of them are so 70s. And they're really like the bridge between 70s and 80s. Not so much as like Xanadu, which is definitely 100% a bridge film. It's got both the worst parts of the 80s and the worst parts of the 70s.
Or the best parts of both.
Yes, of course. But this movie, you know, it's just such a time capsule of what it was like back then.
So weird.
And it's basically a silent movie musical.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if has ever been done before.
If you you watch the movie and you think, wow, it can't get any weirder. It does.
It does.
And it continues to get weirder.
And it took like 20 minutes or 30 minutes for me to realize that there is no dialogue except for George Burns narrating and the two robots.
Well, they made the really smart move of casting a bunch of British people to live in the Heartland, USA, and they realized that they couldn't have them speak. Or didn't want to pay the money to teach them dialects, I guess.
You're not going to teach the Bee Gees how to talk American. Well, then they should have made it in England. Let's be honest.
I agree. I think it would have worked. I mean, the Beatles were from England.
Like, what is have it in Sheffield, you know, BBC or UK.
You could still have George Burns as a narrator, and people would just buy it.
Sure, or you know, get some old Brit to do it. You know, get who was the guy from Logan's Run?
Oh yeah, I never remember his name. Or Hyde Smith or whatever, the guy from the Buck Rogers.
Yes. Yeah, the
he
movie
would have been perfect.
Except the movie would have been 7 hours long. Billy Shears. In Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
All right, well, take yourself back again to 1978.
Nice.
I just love that all our movies this month all happen in like a 3-year period.
Because it's a great period, baby.
February 1st, film director Roman Polanski skips bail and flees to France after pleading guilty to charges of engaging in sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, look, unconscionable what he did.
It's more complicated than that.
But what the judge did was really effed up. Like, he totally... I get why
Polanski was going in for a plea deal.
Yeah.
And the judge publicly said that he was going to ignore the plea deal and give him a maximum sentence. Did that in public.
Right.
Judges don't do that.
No, it was stupid. It was stupid of the judge. Look, do I think he should have paid for what he did? 100%. Yes. I don't think he should have got parole or whatever. I think he should have.
He was going to go to jail. I mean, he was willing to go to jail.
Which I get. Look, he was going to own up to it. Doesn't excuse any of it. It's horrific what he did. Horrific.
Yes.
But it was not equally horrific, but it was horrific what the judge did as well.
It was
not horrific, but it was completely scummy.
It was just out of line.
Yeah.
March 1st, Charlie Chaplin's remains are stolen from Cossure-sur-Vevey, Switzerland. The body
Where was that?
Cossure-sur-Vevey. The body was held for ransom in an attempt to extort money from his widow, Una. The thieves were caught in a large police operation in May, and Chaplin's coffin was found buried in a field in the nearby village of Neuville. It was reinterred in the Corsier Cemetery in a reinforced concrete vault.
Yeah, my bad. I just thought we could get some money from it, and
people forget how rich Chaplin actually was.
Oh yeah,
like he had so much money, and his poor widow Una was just harassed constantly.
I think Una was like 13 when they got married or something.
Yes.
Look, Charlie Chaplin again.
not the greatest thing in the world.
Don't learn stuff about your heroes, people.
But don't steal corpses and hold them for ransom.
Yeah, unless it works.
I mean, then do it. Yeah. June 25th, the rainbow flag of the LGBT movement flies for the first time in its original form at the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Parade.
Nice.
July 21st, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is released in theaters.
Bam, bam, ba-dam, ba-dow.
And it promptly goes away.
I saw it in the theater with my grandma and my sister. Yeah,
really nice. It was. I mean, if I was a kid, I would be enamored with this movie.
Look, I was captivated by it. It was. The music is incredible because it's the Beatles,
Yeah,
and it's like the Beatles era, which I love.
Yeah,
and and it had all of my favorite people at the time. I mean, a lot of them. I didn't really know Alice Cooper or Aerosmith. I wasn't a big Aerosmith fan back then.
I don't think Alice Cooper knew Alice Cooper in this movie.
Alice Cooper looked like such a schlub.
He looks like the janitor that somehow got power. It was super
Everybody
weird.
in this movie, they did not.
He's the only man I know that benefits from wearing lots of face paint.
Oh, yeah. He looked like he worked in a garage.
He looked like he was going to sell you some porno from down the street.
Ooh, maybe he would.
Like, it was, maybe. Anyway, so let's... Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band started life in 1974 as an off-Broadway production called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the Road, because apparently the title wasn't long enough.
No. They needed 2 playbills.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
To fill out the whole title.
It was produced by Robert Stigwood and directed by Tom O'Horgan. If Robert Stigwood, the name doesn't sound familiar, he started as a music manager and promoter in the early 60s, but didn't find a ton of success.
No.
It wasn't until 1966 when he started managing a band called Cream, featuring Eric Clapton. Due to opening on a tour for The Who, of whom Stigwood was the booking agent, by 1967, Cream was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were big, very big.
Back before
Eric Clapton became a weirdo.
Became a jerk. Yeah. What's up with all these guys turning into jerks, man?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really hard to enjoy things anymore.
It is. And to me, it's like, I get these, like, washed up old actor dudes becoming jerks. But musicians, man, you're always like hippies and all about like free love and everybody equality and all this ass. And it's like now all these old crabby musicians are coming out and being crab apples and just being idiots. Eric Clapton is an idiot.
Well, it's not like he's producing new music.
It's such a shame, too, because he has some great songs and he's a great musician. And it just breaks my heart when these guys it just breaks my heart.
I know. I agree. Around this time, Brian Epstein, manager for the Beatles, convinced Stigwood to merge their companies together, and Stigwood started managing the Bee Gees, a relatively unknown band at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the release of New York Mining Disaster 1941 and The Lights Went Out in Massachusetts, both huge international hits, that the Bee Gees became a household name. New York Mining Disaster 1941 is my favorite Bee Gees song.
Really?
It is so sad, but it is done so well.
Nice.
And they sound so good. Yeah.
Are The Lights Went Out in Massachusetts? Is that like The Lights Went Out in Georgia?
Yes. They just changed it from Massachusetts. Added a few more beats to the line.
It did falsetto.
I also find it really funny that their big hits came from naming after U.S. states. Like, apparently that was a thing.
Yeah. I always thought that they were Australian.
I thought they were American because of songs like New York Mining Disaster in 1941. I just assumed, but... Also, during 1961, Stigwood purchased a controlling interest in Associated London Scripts, a writers' agency co-founded by Spike Milligan and Eric Sykes in 1954, in which many of Britain's best comedy and television scriptwriters had been involved.
Nice.
Beryl Virtue from Associated London Scripts was appointed as deputy chairman. Virtue was responsible for selling the formats to U.S. producers of the TV series All in the Family and Sanford & Son, which were adapted from the popular British TV shows Till Death Do Us Part and Steptoe & Son.
Yeah, people... Maybe they do realize, but a lot of people don't realize that this whole, cribbing from England thing has been happening forever.
Oh, yeah. It's been going on
Not
for a
just
long
The
time.
Office and other things, but it's like, there's like 10 different versions of Sanford & Son.
Oh,
like
yeah.
20 different, all over the world.
Oh, yeah. And and that's been going on forever. Like, it's still going on. Like, they're still trying to translate English shows over here. But
sometimes it works.
It wouldn't be, if it wasn't for Robert Stigwood, then we would never have had Sanford & Son. Yeah. Stigwood produced the Broadway shows Hair and Oh Calcutta for the West End stage in 1968 and 1970, respectively.
People got really excited about those. You know why?
Why?
Because everybody got naked in them.
Oh, and Hair in Oh Calcutta.
Oh, yeah.
They get naked?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen either of these shows, so I knew Hair was the big nakedness, but I didn't really.
Same with Oh Calcutta.
Well, hey, it was the late 60s. Everybody got naked.
Yeah, it did.
In 1971, he produced the first theatrical production of Jesus Christ Superstar, initially in the USA, beginning a successful working relationship with Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, which continued later in the decade with Evita.
Jesus Christ Superstar, who in the hell do you think you are?
Tom O'Horgan directed Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar for Stigwood. He was born in Chicago, and he received his degree from DePaul University, where he learned to play dozens of musical instruments.
It's a lot.
After graduating, he worked in Chicago as a harpist and also performed with the Second City, the Chicago Improvisational Theater Company. During his career, he sought to achieve a form of
total theater,
described by the New York Times as
wittily physical,
and which earned him a reputation as the
Busby Berkeley of the acid set.
We'd love to have been in Chicago at this time. Like, they were just doing some weird stuff.
I'd love to be called the Bubsy. I'd love to be called the Busby Berkeley of the acid set.
The 1974 off-Broadway show would feature Ted Neely as Ted Neely as Billy Shears, who played the title role in Jesus Christ Superstar, Elena Reed as Lucy, who would play Olivia Robinson, Gordon's younger sister on Sesame Street, as well as star in the sitcom 227.
Nice.
And David Patrick Kelly, he played Sergeant Pepper, who played Luther, the main antagonist in The Warriors, and collaborated frequently with Spike Lee.
Nice.
John Lennon attended several rehearsals in the opening night performance with May Pang, his assistant-turned-girlfriend after breaking up with Yoko Ono.
Oh, no!
He had a type.
I mean, Yoko. Oh, no!
Yeah. In 1973, Stigwood would create the RSO Records, a record label that released music for bands that he managed. He was, for a time, the most powerful tycoon in the entertainment industry.
Stigwood owned the record label that issued his artists' albums and film soundtracks. And he also controlled publishing rights. Not since Hollywood's golden days had so much power and wealth been concentrated in the hands of one mogul.
It's funny, I literally, before this movie, I'd never heard of Robert Stigwood.
I've heard of Stigwood, or Stiggies, as we call him.
Yeah. Stigwood moved into producing movie musicals, starting with the film adaptation of Jesus Christ Superstar in 1973, Tommy in 1975.
Nice.
Yeah. Bugsy Malone as executive producer in 1976, directed by Alan Parker.
Bugsy Malone.
Saturday Night Fever in 1977. And Grease in 1978.
That is a solid group of musicals.
That is a good 5-year run, man.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
Really good.
Tommy is awesome.
Tommy's great. RSO Records also released the soundtrack to the film Grease, which had Barry Gibb producing and Peter Frampton playing lead guitar on the title track. The title track is my absolute favorite. We'll talk more about Grease next week, but the title track, that song, the opening song, is one of my favorite things ever. It's so weird, but it's so good.
Yeah, it is. And it's definitely got a Gibb sound.
Oh, yeah. In 1976, the Bee Gees had recorded 3 Beatles cover songs, Golden Slumbers / Carry That Weight, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and Sun King for the musical documentary All This and World War II. All This in World War II juxtaposes Beatles songs covered by a variety of musicians with World War II newsreel footage and 20th Century Fox films in a manner meant by the filmmakers to be similar to the 1975 documentary Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?
Interesting.
Brother, Can You Spare a Dime was a 1975 documentary consisting largely of newsreel footage and contemporary film clips to portray the era of the Great Depression. It's all super weird.
It is. I've seen Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? I haven't seen the other one, yeah.
Yeah, I looked for it. I'm pretty sure it's available somewhere, All This in World War II. Unfortunately, it was severely mauled by critics and lasted just 2 weeks in the cinemas before being pulled. Yeah. So, hey, why not make a whole feature fictional movie about the... Yeah, great idea. This led to the idea to adapt Sgt. Pepper Stage Show into a feature film. Michael Schultz was hired to direct the adaptation. When producer Robert Stigwood came to director Michael Schultz with the idea for the film, Schultz thought it was a bad idea.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
However, the last time Stigwood had come to Schultz with an idea for a film, it was Grease in 1978, which he turned down and became a major success. So, of course, Schultz said, okay.
Well, I'll do it then, because he has some successes.
Schultz started directing plays in college. In 1966, he directed his first play, a production of Waiting for Godot. He joined the Negro Ensemble Company in 1968, which brought him to Broadway in 1969.
Nice.
His breakthrough was directing Lorraine Hansberry's To Be Young, Gifted in Black, which he restaged for television in 1972.
Interesting.
After shifting to directing for TV, directing episodes of The Rockford Files, Starsky and Hutch, and Beretta, he moved into directing feature films.
Oh, yeah, man.
Good. All 3 of those things are great.
Yeah, Beretta's okay. He had a parrot, Adam.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Beretta. He had a parrot.
Was it Peretta?
Yeah, it was Beretta and Peretta. And they every episode was him, trying to figure out how to kill his wife, and then he just botches it at the very end.
Wow. Schultz's earlier film projects combined low comedy with social commentary. Honey Baby in 1974, about a young woman from Harlem, she wins. Honey Baby is the main character. She wins a game show trip to Beirut, who gets in trouble after she encounters a Chinese woman who, unknown to her, implants a dot with the secret formula of a deceased prince's body in her purse, with mercenaries tracking her to get the formula back.
That sounds kind of awesome.
It is very odd. I think it's available on Tubi. So, I mean, it's available. But
I might have to watch that.
It seems like a very odd movie, but it's an early-ish blaxploitation movie. Cooley High in 1975, a coming-of-age comedy drama film that follows the narrative of high school seniors and best friends Leroy Preach Jackson and Richard Cochise Morris, which was primarily shot in Chicago and was a major hit at the box office, grossing over $13 million.
Oh, such a good... Have you seen Cooley High?
No.
Oh, it is such a good movie.
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to cover it.
Yeah. Car Wash in 1976, starring...
Franklin Ajay, Bill Duke, George Carlin, Irwin Corey, Ivan Dixon, Antonio Fargas, Jack Kehoe, Clarence Muse, Lorraine Gray, the Pointer Sisters, Richard Pryor, and Garrett Morris.
Yet again, Car Wash comes up.
We're going to do that. That's such a great movie. I mean, it's such a lovable movie. I don't know if great...
Well, that's the same with every movie this month. I don't know if any of them are great.
Well, they're a
fun.
special place in my heart.
Yeah. And he also directed Which Way Is Up in 1977, starring Richard Pryor playing 3 different roles.
It's a good movie, too.
I've never seen it. I would like to see it.
I went through a Richard... Well, I'm probably still in it, but I went through a really heavy Richard Pryor phase where I watched every single thing he's done, including like The Little Things and The Lady Sings the Blues and all the movies that we talked about last time during The Wiz. And, God, he was just such an amazing actor.
Yeah. He was great. He was
such a talented, tortured man. What a fascinating human being.
With a budget of $13 million, Sgt. Pepper's was the largest budget entrusted to an African-American film director to that date.
And then they're probably going to be like, see, we'll never do that again.
The failure of this movie was one of the reasons why they stopped making black-centered movies.
I thought that was The Wiz.
They both.
That's so mean. That's so BS, man. It's like... There's like 18 different failures from white directors that year, and then one...
I know.
Spectacularly ambitious.
Hollywood's racist, Jim?
God, man.
So the Bee Gees play Mark, David, and Bob Henderson, members of the reformed Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Can I just jump back for 1 second? Sure. What is with these crazy budgets for these musicals, man?
I know.
They're more than... Okay, first of all, I need to correct myself. I kept saying that Star Wars was only $3 million. It was like 11.
Yeah,
right?
It was between 9 and 11.
9 and 11.
9 and 11. Yeah.
Which that's Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
I will have to say, like the sets and the converted bus and everything in Sgt. Pepper's is really cool. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, they used the budget. I mean, like obviously,
out of the 3 movies that we've covered so far, not counting Grease, this one is the most polished in terms of like the dancing and the choreography and like that one big scene where the whole town is dancing and George Burns is dancing, and that was a spectacular scene. The musical stuff, the Earth, Wind, and Fire musical production.
Yeah, the performance, like it was great. Yes, I agree. This definitely feels like a very polished. I think that Michael Schultz did a fantastic job,
amazing job
directing this movie.
Yes,
he had a vision and he put it on screen.
He did,
and I respect the shit out of that.
He did, and unfortunately, this film is more of a victim of the time than it is a victim of its own product. You know, it's like we're at a time where everybody was starting to burn disco records, and everybody was, going against all this stuff. And it was like, if this movie came out 3 years prior, it probably would have been a hit.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So the Bee Gees play Mark, David, and Bob Henderson, members of the reformed Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. They also provide the computerized voices for Mean Mr. Mustard's robots. So weird. Mean Mr. Mustard was so good. The Bee Gees formed in 1958 by brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb. They had a string of hits in the 60s and 70s, but the turning point was the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack in 1977 with...
Stay alive, stay alive.
Was that on the first one?
I think so. On the Saturday Night Live? I mean, Saturday Night Fever?
Because, I mean, the second movie was called Staying Alive. I've literally never seen Saturday Night Fever. So
really?
Never.
Oh, my God.
Again, it falls into that weird musical thing.
But it's not a musical at all. There's nobody singing.
I know.
It's just a dancing movie.
It's just a lot of
dancing.
dancing.
Do some dancing, Dad. I'm a dancing, not a guy that works in a factory.
Well, both the film and the soundtrack had a cultural impact throughout the world, enhancing the disco scene's mainstream appeal.
Oh, God, it did.
Yep. They won 5 Grammy Awards for Saturday Night Fever, including Album of the Year.
Yeah, they did.
The Bee Gees have sold over 220 million records worldwide, placing them among the best-selling music artists of all time, as well as the most successful trio in the history of contemporary music.
Good for them.
They were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. The Hall's citation says,
"Only Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Garth Brooks, and Paul McCartney have outsold the Bee Gees."
I love that it's the Beatles and then also Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Like, Paul McCartney is just a rock god.
It's a juggernaut.
Yeah. With 9 number 1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100, the Bee Gees are the 3rd most successful band in Billboard charts history, behind only the Beatles and the Supremes.
Nice.
In this 1980 Playboy magazine interview, in his 1980 Playboy magazine, In his 1980 Playboy magazine interview, John Lennon praised the Bee Gees.
Trying to tell the kids in the 70s who were screaming to the Bee Gees that their music was just the Beatles redone. There's nothing wrong with the Bee Gees. They do a damn good job, and there's nothing else going on then.
Yeah, I love John Lennon, but he had the biggest ego.
Yeah. Well, he was bigger than Jesus.
The Beatles weren't here anymore, so obviously the Bee Gees were the only thing people were listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Bee Gees had actually starred in the TV film in 1970. It was called Cucumber Castle.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. It's so weird.
British comedy film that aired on BBC Two on December 26, 1970. By the time filming began in 1969, the Bee Gees were down to a trio consisting of Barry and Maurice Gibb and the drummer Colin Peterson. Robin Gibb had quit the group earlier in the year following the release of the group's 6th album, Odessa.
You just didn't like it?
I don't. They broke up like 5 times. It's super weird. Barry Gibb played Prince Frederick, King of Cucumber. Maurice Gibb played Prince Marmaduke, King of Jelly.
Okay.
The plot revolves around 2 heirs, Prince Frederick and his brother Prince Marmaduke, and their dying father. On his deathbed, the king orders his kingdom divided into 2 halves, the kingdom of jelly and the kingdom of cucumbers. Before the king dies, Prince Frederick declares himself the king of cucumber, and Prince Marmaduke becomes the king of jelly. The film interspersed comedy sketches with Bee Gees songs. At the end, the king changes his mind and comes back saying,
"I think those pills are working."
Sounds just like Sgt. Pepper's.
Well, it's very British.
At one point in 1978, the Gibb brothers were responsible for writing and or performing 9 of the songs in the Billboard Hot 100.
They were very talented, and they were also very talented songwriters.
In all, the Gibbs placed 13 singles in the Hot 100 in 1978, with 12 making the top 40.
That's good.
Yeah, it wasn't just their own music. Like they had written a bunch of music for other people and then all that. At least 2,500 artists have recorded their songs. It's a lot.
Good, yeah.
The Bee Gees tried to get dropped from Sgt. Pepper's 2 weeks into production.
Why?
Part of the reason was because apparently, according to either Barry or Maurice, there was a lot of drug use going on during the production.
And they wanted no part of it.
They were all very addicted to various drugs. Mostly it was Robin addicted to meth.
Good Lord.
He would do speed to write music. Yeah.
Strange that music came from Speed. It seems like he would be
I think
doing Quaaludes.
I think it was around the time of like Saturday Night Fever and all that.
Even still, there's no speed metal songs or anything on that.
He actually needed barbiturates to go to sleep at night. Like you could tell too that there was at least like 5 scenes where Robin should have been with his brothers and he wasn't.
Well,
there.
that's why they made him drive the bus.
It's like, oh no, you're up there.
Yeah, because they only needed 1 shot of him. You could tell too. I mean, all of them look pretty effed up at one point or another.
Yeah.
Their glassy eyes don't lies. Classy eyes don't lies.
Yeah, so they had a lot of drug problems. Apparently Barry has gone on record saying he was shocked watching production members like walk around carrying bags of cocaine and stuff. So
nice.
A lot of cocaine on the screen. Just saying. On March 10th, 1988, younger brother Andy Gibb died at age 30 as a result of myocarditis. an inflammation of the heart muscle due to a recent viral infection.
So crazy. He was the solo Gibb who had his own career. Very handsome.
He was part of the Bee Gees for a little while in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think when Robin or Maurice or somebody left, like he came in for a bit. But he had a very strong solo career.
Very successful solo career.
The last concert of the Bee Gees as a trio was at the Love and Hope Ball in 2002 because Maurice died unexpectedly on January 12, 2003 at age 53 from a heart attack while waiting emergency surgery to repair a strangulated intestine.
Jeez.
Oof, that sounds awful and painful. On November 20th, 2011, it was announced that Robin Gibb, at 61 years old, had been diagnosed with liver cancer, a condition he had become aware of several months earlier.
Ugh.
He had become noticeably thinner in previous months and had to cancel several appearances due to severe abdominal pain. He died on May 20th, 2012 of liver and kidney failure.
Ugh. So horrible.
Yeah. Barry's still out there. He's still performing. He still does music. I think he has a backing band, and he does, like, concerts.
The pact that he made with the devil was that his brothers would die, but he would continue to go on until 83.
All of them were just too young, man.
Way too young, and really kind of horrific ways of
really
dying. Very painful and not fun.
No. Peter Frampton plays Billy Shears, leader of the Reformed band and grandson of the original Sgt. Pepper character. I literally, when they first showed him kissing Strawberry Fields, I thought it was two women kissing, and I was like, this movie's very progressive.
Yes. Well, back then... guys like he and Leif Garrett and the Hardy Boys played those guys, which I think was Leif Garrett's brother, or maybe even Leif Garrett.
Yeah.
Were very androgynous.
Yeah.
Androgyny was very sexy back then. It's like, very skinny,
they were all
pretty boys.
Every time they showed the four of them, the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton, I was just like, eat a sandwich.
Yeah. They all were pretty skins.
Oh, so skinny. Both Frampton and David Bowie, who was 3 years older, were pupils at Bromley Technical School, where Frampton's father was Bowie's art teacher. Peter and David would spend lunch breaks together playing Buddy Holly songs.
I'd like to think of them like sitting down at lunch, trading sandwiches and stuff, and Buddy Holly songs, and then playing like that paper football game,
Yeah.
And back and forth.
Hey, David. Hi, Dave.
Yeah.
He became a successful child singer, Peter Frampton did, and in 1966 he became a member of The Herd.
Ugh.
He was the lead guitarist and singer, scoring several British pop hits. Frampton was named the Face of 1968 by teen magazine Rave. In 1969, when Frampton was 18 years old, he joined Steve Marriott of Small Faces to form Humble Pie.
Humble Pie is a good band.
Yeah. While playing with Humble Pie, Frampton also did session recording with other artists, including
George Harrison, Harry Nilsson, Jerry Lee Lewis, and John Entwistle's Whistle Rhymes in 1972.
Yeah, he just make this as much of a tongue twister as possible, John.
I like it.
Thanks, John. Pete Drake introduced him to the talk box that was to become one of his trademark guitar effects.
Wow, 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 wow.
I'd never heard anything like that when I first heard it.
It was so cool.
Shocked. I was like, he's making his guitar talk.
And
he really wasn't.
No, he wasn't. But it sounded like it was a very cool effect.
Yeah.
And he, more than any other artist, used it to great effect.
Yes, he was very good with it. After 4 studio albums and 1 live album with Humble Pie, Frampton left the band and went solo in 1971, just in time to see Rockin' the Fillmore rise up the U.S. charts.
Uh-oh.
His own debut was 1972's Wind of Change with guest artist Ringo Starr and Billy Preston.
Ooh,
yeah. This album was followed by Frampton's Camel in 1973, which featured Frampton working within a group project. In 1974, Frampton released Something's Happening. Frampton toured extensively to support his solo career. In 1975, the Frampton album was released.
Okay.
It was just called Frampton.
Okay.
The album went to number 32 in the U.S. charts and is certified gold by the RIAA. Peter Frampton had little commercial success with his early albums.
No.
But this all changed when Frampton's best-selling live album, Frampton Comes Alive!
Holy effing ass, man. That was a juggernaut. My sister, Tracy, she loved that album.
Yeah.
And I listened to that album quite a bit. And that old guitar singing. But yeah, that album was just out of control. Out of control.
Yeah, it was huge. It came out in 1976. The singles Baby I Love Your Way, Show Me the Way, and an edited version of Do You Feel Like We Do were all hits. The latter 2 tracks also featured his use of the talk box guitar effect.
Baby, I love your way every day. Wow, 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 wow.
I never realized it was actually Peter Frampton singing. Like, I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah, well, he's got a really good voice.
He does. This is why it was like, oh, he, except for that one, the song after Strawberry Fields Dies, he's just so off key.
Yeah.
It
was
not,
sad.
Yeah. True. Frampton Comes Alive was released in early January, debuting on the charts on February 14th at number 191. The album was on the Billboard 200 for 97 weeks, of which 55 were in the top 40 and 10 were at number 1.
Yeah.
The album beat, among others, Fleetwood Mac's Fleetwood Mac to become the top-selling album of 1976. It was also the 14th bestseller of 1977.
Yep.
It's just huge. It became the biggest-selling live album ever at the time.
He came alive.
He did.
Adam.
His alive. It's alive. A tribute to the album's staying power, readers of Rolling Stone ranked Frampton Comes Alive number 3 in a 2012 poll of all-time favorite live albums.
Yeah.
The article's text stated,
he was loved by teenage girls and their older brothers. He owned the year 1976 like nobody else in rock.
The success of Frampton Comes Alive put him on the cover of Rolling Stone in a famous shirtless photo by Francesco Scavulo. Frampton later said he regrets the photo because it changed his image as a credible artist into a teen idol.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have Tiger Beat magazine, and these different kind of fanzines that you would get. A lot of them you would get at your Scholastic book fair.
Oh yeah,
and you could. That's kind of the only way that you could subscribe to Tiger Beat.
Yeah,
was through there. Maybe not, but that was the only way I could. And there was
not without anybody else knowing.
But there was other. It wasn't just like Tiger Beat wasn't. There was other magazines.
There were others
that were like Happy Days or so, I don't know. There was something going on. I got some of these magazines.
There was Talk magazine.
Yeah, but that wasn't geared to kids. There were like kids magazines. Yeah, I don't remember what they were, but I know that Tiger Beat was one of them.
Yeah. Frampton's following album, I'm In You, released in 1977, contained the hit title single and went platinum, but fell well short of expectations compared to Frampton Comes Alive. Frampton actually had acted twice before. In 1974, Frampton appeared in the movie The Son of Dracula as a guitarist in The Countdowns.
Ooh.
In 1978, he portrayed coast watcher Peter Buckley in an episode of the World War II drama series Baba Black Sheep titled A Little Bit of England.
Nice, I saw that.
Oh, yeah?
I remember him, yeah. I used to watch Baba Black Sheep. That was with Conrad. William Conrad, I think.
That sounds right.
He used to do this commercial for Duracell where he had a Duracell battery on his shoulder. And
yeah.
I dare you to knock it off. I don't know what it meant. I don't know why. It just seemed like a tough
because
guy.
the batteries are magnetic and I'm made of metal.
Yeah. They're tough batteries. They're the diehard tough batteries or something. I don't know.
He played guitar in the title song of the 1978 film Grease, a song newly written for the film by Barry Gibb. This naturally led to being involved in Sgt. Pepper's, but the failure of the film caused his stardom to crash as quickly as it had risen.
That's such a shame.
It's really too bad. Frampton suffered a near-fatal car accident in the Bahamas in 1978 that marked the end of his prolific period and the beginning of a long fallow period where he was less successful than previously.
Bummer.
In 1980, his album Rise Up was released to promote his tour in Brazil, though he suffered another serious setback that year when all his guitars were thought destroyed in a cargo plane crash that killed 4 people.
Good Lord.
Among the instruments he lost was the black Les Paul Custom, which he had named Phoenix, pictured on the cover of Frampton Comes Alive, which he had used all through his early solo career.
Bummer.
But the guitar was recovered and returned to him in December of 2011.
Well, a little bit late.
It's like 35 years later. It's
Where'd
like,
they find it?
I apparently it was in the jungle somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know. On February 22nd, 2019, Frampton announced he will be retiring from touring with his Peter Frampton finale, the Farewell Tour. He revealed that he had received a diagnosis that he has inclusion body myositis, called IBM, a progressive muscle disorder characterized by muscle inflammation, weakness, and atrophy.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. $1 of every ticket sold for the tour was donated to benefit Frampton's newly established myositis research fund at Johns Hopkins, where he was being treated. In June 2019, his most recent album, All Blues, debuted at number 1 in the Billboard Top Blues Albums chart.
Nice.
On August 6th, 2022, Frampton came out of retirement for one night to perform during Buddy Holly's 85th birthday celebration at the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts and Sciences in Lubbock, Texas. He said later,
I sat down for the first time ever on stage, and it felt very comfortable. Better than leaning on a piano.
On how the disease is affecting his ability to actually play the guitar, Frampton continued,
It's starting to affect my hands, but not enough yet, so I can still play a good lick. But I'll be honest, I'm anxious about it.
As if 2020 kind of made him Australian there.
Hey, anxious about it. Hi.
As As of 2023, Frampton embarked on a tour entitled Never Say Never. Frampton has noted that he didn't expect to be able to play again as a result of his diagnosis. He has stated that while his fingers don't work as well as they used to, they work better than he thought they would, citing it as a reason enough to keep doing what he loved on stage.
That's awesome. Also, I want to mention before we move on that one of the absolute best things he ever did was the Simpsons episode of Homer Palooza and playing himself and bitching about people going into his cooler and stealing. He was hilarious.
So funny.
Even if you're not a Simpsons fan, watch the Homer Palooza episode just to see how great Peter Frampton is. And also all the other bands around. Cypress Hill is hilarious.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's great.
So Steve Martin plays Dr. Maxwell Edison, and the weirdest thing he's ever done.
Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down
so
upon his head.
Weird. Martin's comedy album, A Wild and Crazy Guy, was released the same year as the film, reaching number 2 on the music-dominated Billboard 200 album charts.
It was just so weird and so great.
Yeah. Martin has acquired the kind of following normally reserved for rock stars, with his tour appearances typically occurring at sold-out arenas filled with tens of thousands of screaming fans. But unknown to his audience, stand-up comedy was just an accident for him. His real goal was to get into film.
Yeah, and he did.
We talk about this a lot more. I'm going to a little bit more, but we talk about a lot more in our episode on The Jerk. We talk about Steve Martin way more.
Oh, yeah. And on the whole month that we
devoted
to Steve Martin Short.
Yeah. Martin had a small role in the 1972 film Another Nice Mess, directed by Bob Einstein, also known as Super Dave Osborne or Marty Funkhauser on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Nice.
Starring Rich Little as Richard Nixon and Herb Voland as Spiro Agnew. It was produced by Tom Smothers of the Smothers Brothers and Jonathan Hayes.
Well, he started as a writer on the Smothers Brothers show. Yeah. There's some really great early clips of him performing on that show that are hilarious.
The film had a budget of between $250,000 and $1 million, but would only make $30,000 at the box office, and was subsequently buried by Smothers for 40 years, who said,
"It was a terrible film."
Hayes said,
"Another Nice Mess was a mess."
I do want to see this movie because I love everybody involved in it. So
it's just like every scene in this movie is kind of probably an embarrassment for a lot of the people that were in it. But it's like, look, man, Steve Martin has a electrified hammer fight.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. You remember when you had an electrified hammer fight with Peter Frampton? You remember that? It was awesome.
Yeah. In 1974, that happens way too often in this movie. In 1974, he starred in the Canadian travelogue production The Funnier Side of Eastern Canada, created to promote tourism in Montreal and Toronto.
But he's not Canadian. He's American.
No. He was born in L.A.
That's a lie.
No, well, it also includes stand-up segments filmed at the Ice House in Pasadena, California.
I just have to mention that, some of the funniest human beings on the planet come from Canada, and they had to go to America to get Steve Martin to do the Canada thing?
Yeah, I know. They didn't have Martin Short at that time. No. So he was still not found yet.
He still was not hatched.
He was missing somewhere in a forest? I don't know. His first substantial film appearance was in a short titled The Absent-Minded Waiter in 1977. The 7-minute-long film also featured Buck Henry and Terry Garr. It was written by and starred Steve Martin.
I believe that played on Saturday Night Live. That's where I saw it.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. It's available on YouTube if you want to watch it. The film was nominated for an Academy Award as Best Short Film, Live Action. The next year, he would star in The Jerk, and his film career would explode.
Oh, yeah.
The newest season of Only Murders in the Building has just been released, with Martin stating that it will be the last role he plays.
That's sad.
So I want it to last forever.
Yeah, it needs another season.
I watched the first episode last night, and oh my God, it was like slipping on a nice, comfy pair of shoes.
Yeah, it's great. It's
so
great.
Good.
They're great. It's just, he's still hilarious. He still got it physically and mentally. I mean, he still does great physical comedy. Both he and Martin Short are just fabulous. And Selena Gomez is really great.
She's fantastic. And oh my God, the introduction of Meryl Streep is one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
She's so good in it.
It's so good.
She is so good.
So the cast also features Frankie Howard as Mean Mr. Mustard.
Mean Mr. Mustard.
I love that his introduction was him just being like a silent movie villain.
I'm a mean old man.
There's just a lot of the mugging for the camera.
And, he mugged like a mother mugger.
He did. Howard was a well-known actor and comedian in Britain who happened to be on Stigwood's record label at the time, hence being cast in the film.
Dirty old man.
Dirty old man.
Dirty old man.
Paul Nicholas played Dougie Shears, Billy's younger brother. Nicholas is a British recording artist who made appearances in musicals, such as playing Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar on stage, and playing Vicious Cousin Kevin in the film Tommy.
He's great in Tommy.
Yeah.
He is great.
He was great in this. I really liked him in this.
Oh, he was great. And he had a really good chemistry with Diane Steinberg, who played Lucy.
Oh, okay.
That the You Never Give Me Your Money bit with the two of them.
Yeah.
I love that part.
Donald Pleasance. Paul Nicholas has been represented by Stigwood since the mid-'60s.
Nice. He's still alive?
Yeah. Yes. I think he's still acting. Donald Pleasance is BD, referred to as BD Hoffler in Burns' narrative voiceover and on a magazine cover in the film, but officially known in the film's credits, publicity materials, and in-film posters as BD Brockhurst.
Okay.
Apparently were doing so many drugs they couldn't figure out a name for him.
What was his BD's name again?
I honestly did not realize it was Donald Pleasance until like halfway through him being on screen.
I think I pointed it out to you.
You had to, because I was like, I don't even know who that is. I had to look it up.
He's wearing a wig, and he's so on the Donald Pleasance. I mean, look, most people think, when they think Donald Pleasance, they think of Blofeld.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Bond. Or they think
I always think of Halloween.
Well, yes, of course. Depending on your age, it's either Blofeld or Halloween.
Yeah.
And so many other roles where he played such serious, nervous,
so good in this. You could tell that he was enjoying himself because he's just like,
so much
you know
fun.
what? I'm just going to do my thing.
He was having so much fun, and it's just like, good for him too.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I know on one of the shows we mentioned that he passed on a film to do this film. I think it might have been Logan's Run. I'm not 100% sure.
It's possible.
But it's all the shows run together after a while.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, oh, bad move, buddy. But seeing this, good move, buddy, because you got to play something you never got to play again in your career.
I mean, he was getting paid regardless.
Yeah, kissing ladies,
having
and partying, fun, and smoking weed with the Gibbs,
messing with the toupee, was so funny. It was so funny. Pleasance was an established actor by the time he appeared in Sgt. Pepper's, having done 80 feature films.
Good Lord.
Including playing Blofeld in the Bond franchise, appearing in THX 1138 or 1138. Is it usually 1138?
Yeah.
Yeah, THX 1138, and working with Charlton Heston and Roman Polanski. In 1978, in addition to Sgt. Pepper's, he had 6 other films released, including John Carpenter's Halloween, which we talk about in the Halloween episode.
Yes.
The John Carpenter Halloween episode.
Michael Myers, he has no soul. He's bad. You have to destroy him.
He's so good. He's one of those actors that was so good and so big, and nobody talks about him anymore.
It's a shame because he's one of my, again, talent crush. Every time I saw him in something, it was always a pleasant to see Pleasance.
Sandy Farina with Strawberry Fields. Farina is an American singer and songwriter. She wrote the song Kiss Me in the Rain for Barbra Streisand, which appeared on Streisand's album Wet.
Okay, Barbara.
She appeared in The Toxic Avenger in 1984, performing Body Talk.
Let me hear your body talk. Your body talk. Is that the one?
I don't think so.
Probably not, right?
But I wish it was. She was a Star Search contestant in 1985, and the following year was co-lead vocalist on the Hands Across America charity single.
Hands across. Oh, that's the Hands Across the Water.
She's currently a session singer for television commercials.
She was really good. She has a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I loved her. Yeah. As a child. When I saw this movie, I fell in love with her.
It was effective. You wanted to, the movie wanted you to love Strawberry Fields.
But she was so likable and just so ethereal in this movie.
Her death was so pointless.
So stupid.
Not that it matters, because she didn't technically die.
Well.
Magic Weather Vane! Yay!
But it was shocking seeing that as a kid, man. We'll get to it, but good Lord.
Aerosmith was cast as future villain band. Their cover of Come Together ended up being a top 25 hit single.
Come together right now. Over me.
I heard this song. I didn't know Sgt. Pepper's as a movie existed. And I literally, my first thought, I said this when we were watching it, I was like, why are they covering the Beatles? This is weird. They're already an established band. I had no idea it was for this movie.
It was. They were all dressed as... Hey,
they were chips, essentially.
Hey, what's his name? Tyler? Steven?
Hey, Steven.
Hey, Steven Tyler. You remember when you dressed up as a motorcycle cop and you got beat up by the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton, and then you
fell
killed
and
Strawberry
died.
Fields, and
Yeah.
then the Bee Gees killed you.
Well, but he
remember?
died first. I don't
They
remember.
died at the same time.
Did his falling cause the? I just remember him falling and being like, "Wow, Steven Tyler really committed to falling off that stage."
No, he when he fell, he brought down the contraption with
okay, that brought
Strawberry.
It down. Okay, gotcha. Kiss was actually approached to play the future villain band, but they turned down the role, fearing that the movie would hurt their image, and instead starred in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Yeah, which totally upped their image.
This is Gene Simmons from Kiss. I just wanted to tell you that there is no way for us to monetize our appearance in Sgt. Pepper's. So what we did was we made something that we could totally monetize.
Yeah, I mean that makes
They're
sense.
businessmen among anything else.
Oh, yeah.
I love Kiss. I love them. Kiss Alive was one of my first albums.
Yeah,
and I will always love them, and I love their music to this day. But Gene Simmons is a huckster.
He is. He totally is. Alice Cooper was Gass's father's son. Alice Cooper actually started as a band before the lead singer adopted the name for himself during his solo career.
People were probably pretty pissed about that.
Yeah.
I'm Alice Cooper now.
I mean, it's
All right.
yeah. Over his career, Cooper has sold well over 50 million records.
He's just this weird dude under the radar that
yeah.
sing a song of his.
School's Out for the Summer.
Oh, is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
That's literally the only one I know. School's out
For the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I literally there's one more,
Forever.
but it would take me a while to remember what it is.
I love him, but yeah.
Yeah.
He's and god damn, he looked rough.
Love that his name is Father Son in it, because that is the total opposite of what he looks like in this.
It's a really cool name, by the way, Father
Well,
Son.
there was a reason he looked rough, because at the time, Alice Cooper had checked himself in a New York City rehab facility,
Good Lord.
which he quickly discovered was more of a mental hospital for alcoholism.
Good Lord. And what a healthy thing to be able to be released onto this set where it was drug and alcohol free.
Yeah, he got 3 days of temporary leave to record his vocals and shoot his scenes for the film.
I bet you he went on a bender.
Why would anybody agree to this?
I don't know. He needed the money. Well, they agreed to it because he needed to pay for his rehab stay.
That's true. That's true. Earth, Wind, and Fire, appearing as Earth, Wind, and Fire, The Elements. Their cover of "Got to Get You Into My Life" earned the band a Grammy Award.
I'm going to tell you this,
So good.
it is. I like that version best.
I agree.
I like it better than the Beatles
agree.
version.
I agree.
And I am a huge EWF fan. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Seeing them in this movie made me want to go find a concert film and watch a concert film. With them.
I mean, the horns.
So good. The costumes, the synchronized dancing, just spontaneously synchronized
God.
dancing. It's so good.
Such a huge band. It was a highlight of the movie was their performance.
Yeah.
And that probably is my favorite song.
Like sequence or song. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole soundtrack. Which, oh, baby, did I own the soundtrack.
Billy Preston as the magical Sgt. Pepper Golden Weather Vane come to life.
He was so cool.
Preston was a top session keyboardist in the 1960s, during which he backed artists such as
Little Richard, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, the Everly Brothers, Reverend James Cleveland, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones.
Additionally, Preston co-wrote "You Are So Beautiful," which became a number 5 hit for Joe Cocker.
You are so beautiful.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things John Belushi ever did was his Joe Cocker. And when he did Joe Cocker with Joe Cocker
Yes.
on Saturday
It
Night
was
Live.
so brilliant.
Oh, look that up on
So
YouTube,
brilliant.
people. It'll give you a tickle in your old tickle bone.
Preston is one of only 2 non-Beatle musicians, along with Tony Sheridan, to be given a credit on a Beatles recording at the band's request.
He was having so much fun
Oh,
doing
he was
that
so
part.
great in this.
His little dancing, his little boot moves, man.
Oh, yeah.
His boot scooting.
The group's 1969 single "Get Back," which he sang in the movie, was credited as the Beatles with Billy Preston.
Nice. Get back.
Oh, he was so good. Man, he was just enjoying shooting laser beams out of his fingers.
Ba-dam, 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 ba-dam.
And now you're alive. And now you're back. And now
Jojo
you're...
was a man who died.
It was good. That was one of my... after the Earth, Wind, and Fire, it was one of my favorite performances.
Oh, it was so fun. And it was just like, it was literally like, oh, what do we do now? All right, let's make a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah,
Let's just have the weather vane come to life.
Let's bring in Billy Preston.
And the weather vane is a weather vane of Sergeant Pepper, and yet it's not Sergeant Pepper.
Oh, it's Billy Preston.
It's Billy Preston that is the weather vane that comes and does all the magical Deus Machina stuff. I guess they just didn't want an old guy dancing around.
They literally had the mannequins of the original Sergeant Pepper. They could have come back.
Honestly, and you talk about Mandela effect. I honestly thought the ending was the band coming to life.
Yeah.
And in them having a whole big
and then them doing
number.
essentially what Billy Preston does.
And then as soon as I saw the
Gee,
Billy
it's
Preston
almost like that would have made more sense, Jim.
Even at 9, I thought that was 8.
Look, I don't want to get on the writings back because it's such just a silly movie, but man, they made some weird choices.
Well, they did, but it's also just it's just a fairy tale. It's really what it is. It's just a folk tale told by Mr. Kite.
Yeah.
George Burns is telling us the story of Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah, George Burns playing Mr. Kite. He was 82 when filming Sergeant Pepper's.
And this is what we talked about. He still had another 20 years of a career after that.
Yeah.
At 82, he still had 20 years of a career after that. Starring in movies, starring in TV shows, specials, stand-up, Vegas acts.
Yeah.
He was insanely
He provides
incredible.
most of the narration for the film. When they decided not to have the Bee Gees or Peter Frampton talk, they just said, Mr. George Burns will do all the narration.
Yeah, George Burns, I'm going to do all the narration. This is what it's going to sound like.
Only one time when, I think it's Maurice who plays the drums, does the 1-2, when they're at the weird hoedown, which is apparently their audition for the Donald Pleasance. Like, it's super weird.
So weird, but that's what I'm...
Which, also, they play... And I don't know why they had this in the movie, but they play and then they stop and start over again.
Yeah.
It was just like, you're not doing very well for this audition.
Well, they're recording the tape.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, they're recording for the audition. But apparently they had
that
to...
makes more sense.
They had to leave Stuberville or whatever, Loveville, Shumptown. Heartland. Yeah, why did they have to go to a farm with a bunch of loud animals to record?
People? Like, they had 40 people just hanging out? Like, it doesn't... I mean, I get, it's a live, whatever. But, it didn't make any sense.
Well, that's how it was done in 78. If you were going to make a demo, you had to go to a farm, and you had to record at a farm in a barn. That's just the way it was done.
That's how it was. Carl Strucken played the Brute in his first film appearance. Strucken is a Dutch actor who was diagnosed with acromegaly, a disease that it causes excessive growth of body parts, resulting in him being 7 feet tall.
Yeah, that guy, you would recognize him from just about everything.
Yeah, he's known for playing the giant/fireman in the television series Twin Peaks, the occasional guest role of Mr. Hom in Star Trek The Next Generation, and the household butler Lurch in the 1990s Addams Family films. He played Terrak in the 1985 TV film Ewoks: The Battle for Endor, a spin-off to the original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, yeah. There were 2 Ewok movies, man.
Yeah.
And they were both mediocre.
Great.
I haven't seen them since they came out.
I saw a great meme. I should have saved it, but it was just I liked The Mandalorian. I liked Andor. I liked The Book of Boba Fett. Because I didn't think we'd get any more Star Wars, and I'm just happy we have more Star Wars.
Yeah. Look, man, when we were kids, we got Ewok movies and droid cartoons.
And cartoons.
Yeah, but the droids, it's just they took it's like they took the least cool parts of Star Wars and put them on TV.
Max Showalter was Ernest Shears, Billy and Dougie's father. Showalter was an American film, television, stage actor, as well as a composer, pianist, and singer. He appeared in more than 1,000 television show episodes, such as...
The Twilight Zone, in the iconic episode, It's a Good Life. The Lucy Show, Gunsmoke. The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. The New Phil Silvers Show, Bewitched. Dr. Kildare, Surfside 6. The Doris Day Show, Kojak. Police Story, and The Bob Newhart Show.
In the 1979 film 10, he famously played a pastor whose hobby was writing bad songs.
Oh, yeah.
Showalter made his last on-screen appearance in the John Hughes film 16 Candles in 1984.
God, he was so good as the grandfather.
So funny.
Hey, it looks like you're getting your boobies.
Oh, God.
Oh, he was so funny.
Patrick Cranshaw was the Western Union messenger. Cranshaw was an American character actor known for his distinctive look and deadpan humor.
Yeah, he didn't have any teeth.
He was best known for one of his last roles, that of Joseph Blue Pulaski, a fraternity brother in the 2003 comedy Old School at the Age of 83.
Oh, Blue. Oh, Blue. Do it for Blue.
That means in this movie he was like 53.
He was like my age.
53.
The guy has looked
56.
The guy has looked 80 years old since he was 40. He does not look any different from 1960 to 2000 whenever he died.
Despite an acting span of more than 40 years and some 102 appearances, Cranshaw's first credited film role came at the age of 41 in The Amazing Transparent Man in 1960. Cranshaw's mild-mannered and gentlemanly demeanor led him to a number of roles as bank tellers, store managers, and grandfathers. His major credits include
Bonnie and Clyde, Bandolero, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Moving, The Hudsucker Proxy, Everyone Says I Love You, Nothing to Lose, Almost Heroes, Broken Vessels, Best in Show, and Bubba Boy.
He's appeared in more than 50 television series, including Alice and After MASH.
Ooh, After MASH. That was a good get.
He died of pneumonia at the age of 86 in 2005.
What a crappy way to go. You live all the way to 86 and you get bumped by a big old cold.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
Wow, that sucks.
I guess it's better to go. I don't know, man. Going with pneumonia would be hard, I think, because all the coughing and the pain.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know, man.
Oh, just wait until.
Would you rather go by pneumonia or some sort of horrible cancer or something? I guess I'd think pneumonia because it'd be a smaller.
It would be shorter.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a prolonged having to go to the doctor every day and get chemo.
No. Neither. I'm going to say neither.
Okay. It's not a choice, but okay.
Additionally, the film becomes a time capsule of late 1970s pop culture, with the last scene in which the cast is joined by our guests at Heartland to sing the reprise of the title track while standing in a formation imitating the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album cover. It seemed very lazy.
Oh, of course.
The whole thing seemed so lazy.
Well, it was probably put together. Look, they probably sent out invitations. They sent out invitations to everybody in Hollywood, right? Like, everybody. Yeah. And it's pretty insane, the people that they got.
And not even just where they sent, but they were formal invitations that were engraved.
Oh, wow.
Sent to almost everyone in the entertainment industry. And they just took the people that said yes.
Well, that sounds about right.
The many who RSVP'd were treated to first-class transportation to Los Angeles, limos, luxurious hotels, champagne, a lavishly catered dinner, and private tents for each of the stars in the studio's garden room.
100% I would do this. I don't care who I was. I would 100% go.
I'm going to say this is why the budget was $13 million.
Maybe. Yeah, they blew
All
their
right.
wad.
This is going to be the longest list you've ever read. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The special guests include
Peter Allen, Keith Allison, George Burns, Elvin Bishop, Stephen Bishop, Jack Bruce, Keith Carradine, Carol Channing, Charlotte, Sharon, and Ula, Jim Dandy, Sarah Dash, Rick Derringer, Barbara Dixon, Donovan, Dr. John, Randy Edelman, Yvonne Elliman, Jose Feliciano, Leif Garrett, Adrian Gurvitz, Billy Harper, Eddie Harris, Hart, Nona Hendricks, Barry Humphries as Dame Edna Everidge, Etta James, Bruce Johnson, Joe Layla, D.C. LaRue, Joe Leb, Marcy Levy, Mark Lindsay, Niles Lofgren, John Mayall, Curtis Mayfield, Bruce Morrow, known as Cousin Brucey, Peter Noon, Alan O'Day, Lee Oscar, the Bailey Brothers, Robert Palmer, Wilson Pickett, Anita Pointer, Bonnie Raitt, Helen Reddy, Minnie Ripperton, Chita Rivera, Johnny Rivers, Monty Rock III, Danielle Rowe, Seals and Groff, Shauna Naudel Shannon, Joe Simon, Connie Stevens, Al Stewart, John Stewart, Tina Turner, Frankie Valli, Gwen Verdon, Diane Vincent, Grover Washington Jr., Alan White, Lenny White, Jackie Lomax, Margaret Whiting, Hank Williams Jr., Johnny Winter, Wolfman Jack, Bobby Womack, and Gary Wright.
Whew. That was everybody. That was
pass out.
Yeah. The Beatles' former producer George Martin served as musical director, conductor, arranger, and producer of the film's soundtrack album.
Great album. Great covers of the Beatles, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Again, except for that one Peter Frampton cover. He just sounded terrible singing to her corpse.
Okay.
Sorry, it was just shocking how bad it was. Because most of it was good. Before the film's release, Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees announced,
"Kids today don't know the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper. And when those who do see our film and hear us doing it, that will be the version they relate to and remember. Unfortunately, the Beatles will be secondary. You see, there is no such thing as the Beatles. They don't exist as a band and never perform Sgt. Pepper's live. In any case, when ours comes out, it will be, in effect, as if theirs never existed. When you heard about the Beatles doing Long Tall Sally or Roll Over Beethoven, did you care about Little Richard or Chuck Berry's version?"
Honestly, it just sounds like a lot of meth talking.
Yes. I don't think anybody's going to forget about the Beatles, buddy.
It's really weird that he talked about how they didn't exist, but then uses them as an example for that thing that he just said.
Well, they don't exist in the movie universe, right? That's what he's trying to say.
Although Universal had high hopes for the movie, anticipating this generation's Gone with the Wind, it worked out differently.
Yeah, a little bit.
What is the obsession with producers thinking that it's going to be this generation's Gone with the Wind?
Because Gone with the Wind was like the biggest film to date.
Sure.
It was a box office thing rather than a content thing.
Yes.
I don't think anybody thinks Sgt. Pepper is going to be, frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn.
Although, according to film historian Leonard Maltin's TV, movie, and video guide, the picture
just doesn't work.
And
ranges from tolerable to embarrassing. As for the Bee Gees and acting, well, if you can't say something nice.
In Rolling Stone, Paul Nelson ridiculed virtually every aspect of the production. He said that Frampton had
absolutely no future in Hollywood,
while Schultz
would seem to need direction merely to find the set, let alone the camera.
I would completely disagree with that.
Yeah, me too.
Nelson commented on the musical soundtrack.
The album proves conclusively that you can't go home again in 1978. Or, if you do, you'd better be aware who's taken over the neighborhood.
The New York Times' Janet Maslin wrote that the
musical numbers are strung together so mindlessly that the movie has the feel of an interminable variety show.
Also adding that,
conceived in a spirit of merriment, watching it feels like playing shuffleboard at the absolute insistence of a bossy shipboard social director. When whimsy gets to be this overbearing, it simply isn't whimsy anymore!
I don't think that Janet Maslin knows what whimsy is.
No, and these people are jerks. It's just a silly, fun film.
They're taking it too seriously.
Yeah. If it wasn't the Beatles, if it was all original Bee Gees music, and they called it Corporal Wilson's super duper lumpy band,
Captain Salt, yeah,
then it would have been fine. But it's like the Beatles are so precious to everybody.
Yeah,
and I get it.
But the fact is that, and this is the thing, I turned to you when we started watching this movie, and it occurred to me, I'm going to enjoy this because I like the Beatles.
Yes,
I like their music. And even if somebody else is covering it, it's still the Beatles.
It's still a celebration of the Beatles, this movie.
Yeah. A more positive review came from the Valley Independent, calling the film
good campy fun,
citing Steve Martin's performance as
a high point.
Okay. And the celebrity-filled finale as
something special.
Before concluding,
there was much to enjoy. I agree.
It's just such an innocuous, there was much to enjoy.
But I agree with everything you said.
Alice Cooper said,
nobody realized what a stinker it was, and as soon as they were in the middle of it, everybody says, you know what? This is absolutely blasphemous to the Beatles.
The video that he made the people watch to scramble their brains.
Yeah,
it's like him bent over, like kind of pointing at them, like, "Yeah, come on, let's go, yeah." It was so weird. Only Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr went to see the movie when it first premiered. When asked about the film in a 1979 interview, George Harrison expressed his sympathy for Stigwood, Frampton, and the Bee Gees, acknowledging that they had all worked hard to achieve success before making Sgt. Pepper. He said of Frampton and the Bee Gees,
I think it's damaged their images, their careers, and they didn't need to do that. It's just like the Beatles trying to do the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones can do it better.
Despite all this, the film was a minor commercial success, earning $20.4 million against the production budget of $13 million.
Got my grandma's money.
The soundtrack peaked at number 5 on the Billboard charts and quickly sank after 5 weeks. Radio stations had trailed off because of the film's poor box office performance, but the soundtrack album managed to be certified platinum. However, it was not released on CD until 1999.
Travesty!
Also, oddly, the film was adapted as a comic book, which was intended to be released as Marvel Super Special number 7. For reasons unknown, it was never released in the U.S.
I would have bought it.
I know.
I would have bought it.
Also, the idea... This is just the crowning cherry on top of weirdness that this movie is, that they made a jukebox of variety musical with the Beatles music and then made into a comic book.
Everything was made into a comic book back then, though. Everything. Like that's how it was. Like, if there was any sort of appeal to children,
right,
they would make it into a comic book.
It was released in France, Netherlands, and Germany, with text in the respective language of each country, but copies are very scarce.
I'd like to see
and
it.
Hard to find. I can imagine, though, because it's very colorful, and then the plot's very simple. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I got. I really enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would.
I had not seen it since I was a kid, and I loved it as a kid. It affected me in a way. It was weird the way that this movie affected me. It should not have affected me the way that it did. But watching it again as an adult, I really enjoyed it. And it brought back a lot of the fun and the feelings that I had. I even got a little choked up at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't get choked up until I saw George Burns getting sad. Because he's such a good actor.
He's such a great actor. Yeah.
But it's again, like Xanadu, you could put this on in the background of a party, and people are going to end up being like, "Wait a minute, is that Steve Martin?
Yeah,
is that Aerosmith?
What is going on?
What the hell
is that Aerosmith? Is that Steven Tyler's mouth? Because it's all I can see on the screen."
Good Lord, yeah, and he used the old handkerchief back then too.
Oh my God,
yeah, he almost put Strawberry Field's entire head.
Oh my God,
in his mouth. He can unhinge his jaws to open them up. And he can fit almost a whole keg.
If
he can fit a pony keg, but almost
if his mouth was smaller, he would be spitting image of his daughter, Liv.
Yes,
because her mouth is not that big.
No, she did not inherit.
She inherited her mother's mouth.
From nose up, though, they look exactly alike.
Yeah.
Nose down, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely. I think this is a good double feature with Xanadu.
100%.
It's not something you have to really pay attention to.
No. And it's, look, again, if you smoke pot, smoke a chun of it. A chun of it?
A whole chun.
A whole chun. And if you smoke it, you know how much a chun is.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're not a real smoker. No, have a chun of weed, have some drinks, you know, have your friends over and watch it and make fun of it. It's again, much like Bugsy Malone and Xanadu, it's like something you're never going to see again. Since it's like, it's an anomaly.
It's weird. It's just weird.
It's a weird film where everything came together to make a film that wasn't bad, but just the timing was horrible.
Yeah.
The timing was not good for it.
No, it was not.
And look, it's not a great movie.
No.
But it is a great cult film, and it's a fun, campy movie to watch. The reviewer from the East Bay Grocery Center, was right. It is a campy, fun ride, and if
there is much to enjoy,
do not take it seriously.
No,
it is not a serious movie to be taken seriously at all. But look here, you got a movie starring the Bee Gees, Peter Frampton, Steve Martin, and Donald Pleasance. And all sorts of people at the end. Great covers of music by the Beatles, narrated by friggin' George Burns. It's such a uniquely weird film. It's ostensibly a musical silent film.
Yeah.
When have you seen a musical silent film?
Well, I mean, they used to be the thing in musicals is that there was, at least some Broadway musicals, there was no dialogue at all. Ugh. Like, it was all done through singing. That's part of the reason I'm not a huge musical guy. But, like, it worked for this movie.
Well, it did. And I know I'm probably on the minority. I'm in the minority on this one, but I really have fun watching this movie. Just like Xanadu. The movies this month may not be the best movies in the world, but they are definitely different than anything that you've seen. They're cult classics now, as they should be. And they're just a lot of fun and a great time capsule of the era.
Yeah, it's a really good encapsulation of the 70s and the end of an era, essentially. We'll be back next week. We're going to cover the best, apparently, movie musical in the 70s because it made a lot of money.
It did. It did. And it's strange, though, that the success of that didn't carry over to more musicals.
Well, yes. I think it was one of those, like... It was the movie that proved the point, or proved the exception
to the rule.
That proved the rule of that musicals aren't great, and it's because nothing can be like Grease.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I loved Grease. I'm very excited to cover it.
Me too. I haven't seen it in decades.
Excited to watch it. I've been
nothing like watching 40-year-old dudes play high school students.
40.
Okay, 35.
We're quite 40. Only one person. Anyway, we'll talk about it next week.
Peter Frampton. Basically, in a nutshell, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely...
July 21st, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Wow, that is just not... That is a... Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Wait a minute, I've got to get the accent down. Does this sound correct? That sound like Dracula. Jackie Lomax, sorry. Good Lord. My glasses. Lenny White. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Already in progress.